This morning, you woke up to an alarm. You checked your phone before your feet hit the floor. 300,000 years ago, your ancestors woke up to sunlight. No alarm, no phone, no boss, no rent. They relaxed and worked few hours a day. Hunting, cooking, gathering. Done. You haven't even had your first coffee yet. And many researchers studied the ancient humans, and what they found didn't just surprise them. It made them question everything about the way we live. So what did a normal day look like for our ancestors? Sunrise. The sun has barely started rising. For ancient humans, this is the beginning of another completely unpredictable day. And the first thing many humans probably did every morning was check whether the fire was still alive. That sounds strange today, but for most of human history, fire was survival. Fire meant warmth, cooked food, and protection. Losing it could make the next few days dramatically harder. Anthropologist Richard Wrangham proposed something called the cooking hypothesis, the idea that mastering fire may have completely changed human evolution itself. Cooking allowed humans to absorb more calories while spending less energy digesting food. And over thousands of generations, that extra energy may have helped grow the human brain itself. Most humans at this time lived in very small groups, and they probably knew every single person around them since they were a kid. Almost everything they owned could be carried by hand. A spear, animal hides, stone tools. That was their entire world. As the morning slowly begins, the camp starts becoming active. And in many groups, older and more experienced members often helped guide important decisions. Where should the group move next? Was there enough water nearby? Were predators seen recently? These were not kings ruling over civilizations, but survival often depended on listening to the people with the most experience. Studies found that hunter-gatherer groups spent hours every day talking to each other. Not because they were lazy, because conversation was survival. Ancient humans were nowhere near the top of the food chain. The wilderness was filled with predators. Big cats, hyenas, and massive cave lions, some nearly 30% larger and far stronger than the lions alive today, which raises a question most people never think about. How did humans survive at all against animals that were faster, stronger, and could see in the dark? The answer was not strength, it was not speed, it was something far simpler. They stayed together. Hold that thought, because by midday you will see exactly how powerful that turned out to be. Midday. By midday, the heat becomes exhausting. But this is the time of the day when most of the work got done. Most of the group slowly returns carrying whatever food they managed to find. And almost immediately, the food gets shared. Remember the question from Sunrise. How did physically weak humans survive against animals that were stronger and faster? Sharing. This is the answer. Think about what happens if one person gets unlucky for several days in a row. What happens if a hunter gets injured? In the modern world, those people often struggle alone, feeling isolated. In an ancient camp, the group absorbed the loss. Everyone gave when they had. Everyone received when they didn't. And this raises another strange question. Why would humans share valuable food instead of keeping it for themselves? Because for most of human history, survival was unpredictable. Researchers believe cooperation may have been one of humanity's single greatest evolutionary advantages. Not strength, not speed, not intelligence alone. The ability to coordinate, share, and trust each other at scale. And ancient humans built entire social systems to protect that trust. Anthropologist Richard B. Lee once bought a massive ox for the Khoisan tribe in the Dobe region of the Kalahari Desert during his fieldwork in the mid-1960s. He expected people to celebrate. Instead, everyone mocked him. They called the ox skinny, weak, worthless. Lee was completely confused. Why insult a person bringing food? Later, one of the elders finally explained it. If a hunter becomes arrogant, he may start believing he is more important than everyone else. And once that happens, sharing begins to break down. So the group intentionally mocked successful hunters to keep everyone humble. Because in small ancient tribes, cooperation mattered more than ego. And surprisingly, many hunter-gatherer groups were far more equal than most modern societies. There were no billionaires, no giant houses, no endless accumulation of wealth. Because almost everything spoiled quickly. You could not store meat for months. You could not hoard resources forever. Which meant sharing was often smarter than selfishness. In the modern world, success is often measured by how much a person owns. For ancient humans, owning too much would have just slowed the group down. There were no police, no prisons, no written laws. Any disagreements were sorted out by words, and there was no concept of crime. In small ancient camps, reputation could decide whether people protected you or abandoned you. And for ancient humans, being isolated from the group could be a death sentence. Studies of modern hunter-gatherer groups found that ancient humans may actually have worked fewer total hours per week than the average modern person. Not because life was easy, but because survival tasks eventually ended. There were no emails waiting at night, no commutes, no endless notifications. A broken leg today means a hospital visit. 300,000 years ago, it could completely change whether you survived. Sunset. The sun starts dropping lower now, and the entire camp begins changing with it. People stop wandering far from the group. Children who spent the day playing nearby now stay closer to the adults. Hunters who left at sunrise finally begin returning through the grass, sometimes carrying meat, most of the time carrying very little. And strangely, nobody reacts dramatically either way, because for ancient humans, uncertainty was normal. A hunt could fail for days in a row. A single injury could suddenly change everything. Some hunters return exhausted. Others quietly clean blood from cuts on their arms and legs. And for ancient humans, even small injuries were dangerous. There were no antibiotics, no hospitals. A deep infection from a simple cut could become life-threatening within days. As darkness slowly approaches, the entire social atmosphere changes. The camp becomes quieter, more alert. People begin sitting closer together without even thinking about it. Anthropologists studying hunter-gatherer groups noticed that human conversation often changed completely after sunset. Daytime conversations focused on survival, but evenings became more emotional, more social, more reflective. People laughed more, told stories more, stayed physically closer together. And this may have mattered far more than we realize, because for hundreds of thousands of years, darkness forced humans to stop moving and simply spend time with each other. Beyond the edge of the camp, the wilderness is still active. Strange sounds move through the grass nearby, and occasionally, glowing animal eyes briefly appear in the dark, before disappearing again. But as the last light of the sunset goes out, the most dangerous part of the day is only just beginning. Night. Now the last light from the sunset is gone. Beyond the camp, the world becomes completely dark. The hunters who spent the day tracking animals finally sit down to rest. But the work inside the camp is not over. Cooking begins. Roots roast beneath hot ash, meat cooks slowly over open fire. Plants gathered earlier in the day are cleaned, crushed, and shared around the group. And surprisingly, gathered food often provided more reliable daily calories than hunting itself, which meant women were often the more consistent providers of food inside the camp. And unlike modern life, where many people eat alone looking at phones or televisions, ancient humans almost always ate together. Ancient humans developed surprisingly intelligent ways to stay alive during the night. Some groups deliberately slept beside cliffs, so predators could not silently approach from every direction. Others scattered dry branches and loose debris around parts of the camp, not as traps, as alarms. Anything moving nearby during the night could accidentally create sound before reaching the group. Anthropologist Carol Worthman studied sleep patterns in traditional hunter-gatherer groups and found that people rarely slept in one uninterrupted block for the entire night. Someone inside the group was almost always awake, listening, watching, checking the darkness. And strangely, modern humans still behave similarly. Why sudden sounds at night immediately wake us up? Why complete silence sometimes feels uncomfortable? Because your brain was shaped by nights exactly like this. Outside the camp, predators are still moving through the darkness. Hyenas calling somewhere far away, branches snapping beyond the grass, eyes occasionally reflecting faint light before disappearing again. And for ancient humans, surviving the night was never guaranteed. Tomorrow, the entire cycle begins again. Wake up, find food, avoid predators, protect the group, survive one more day. And humans repeated this life for hundreds of thousands of years, slowly evolving, adapting, surviving, until those same ancient humans eventually built the modern world you live in today.